All right, grade 7, we're going to learn about the Pythagorean theorem today. And Pythagorean theorem has to do with right triangles and finding the hypotenuse. So if I were to draw a right triangle here neatly, then what you would get is a triangle that is square on one side and has a hypotenuse on the top. This here is called the hypotenuse. Okay, that is the longest side. Okay, and the hypotenuse is always going to be opposite of the right angle. Okay, so the Pythagorean theorem has a whole bunch of stuff that's all tied into it. The easy part to remember is that you have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Now, what does that all mean? Well, if you grab side A and you add it to, you square it, and you add side B squared, you're going to find side C squared. So you'll have to do the square root of it to find side C. So hopefully that concept makes sense, but remember that C is always the hypotenuse side. Where you place A and B is not as important, but C always has to be the hypotenuse side. So those are the terms that you're working with for the hypotenuse. So what does that mean when it says a squared plus b squared equals c squared? So what we're going to do is just use the numbers that you have for example A in your practice set. It says the side lengths of three triangles are given. Which triangle is a right triangle? So it's going to be asking you which one is a right triangle. 4, 5, and 6. We're going to use those numbers just to see if that works. So if this side is 4 and this side is 5, the question is, can this side be 6? Because it looks like it has a nice right triangle there, right? It looks like it. So let's try it. If we go 4 squared, so I grabbed this one, plus 5 squared, that one, should equal 6 squared. So let's try it. 16 plus 25 equals 36. Does that work? No. We got 41 equals 36. This is not, doesn't equal. It's not going to work. Right? So let's go to B. They have one that's drawn, and I'll just draw it slightly different, but they have 7, 7, and 10. Again, the same thing. The long one is going to be your c squared. So that one should be 10 squared. So you got 7 squared plus 7 squared equals 10 squared. 49 plus 49 does not equal 100. So no, that's not going to work either. Sorry, I'm grabbing different numbers than you got there. It's example 5 that I'm actually using. And now we're looking at C in that example 5, and it says 5, you got 5, 12, and 13. Does that work? Well, let's try it. 13 is the long one, so we have to put 13 squared here. And then we get 5 squared plus 12 squared. Does this work? Well, you get 25 plus 144 equals 169. Does that work? Let's try it. 144 plus 25, and you can already see that 169 equals 169. Yes, this one is a right triangle. So you can use the Pythagorean theorem on right-angled triangles. That's the only one that it's going to work on. Okay, so let's go to the practice set. Practice set A. It says copy the triangles and draw the squares on the sides of the triangles as you work the problem. Okay, so let's do A together. So make sure you draw it in your book. You got a nice one here. It's got 26 here. And it's got 24 here. 24 here. And it has A. We're trying to figure out what A is. All right. So in order to figure that out in your book, we have to figure out what A is. Okay, so that means that 26 squared, that's your long side, right, equals 24 squared plus A squared. Okay, so in order to find A squared, we actually have to do 26 squared minus 24 squared. So grabbing our handy dandy calculator, we can put those terms in to find our answer. Oops, and I just pushed the wrong one on my calculator. So 24 squared is going to equal 576. Oops. 26 squared, clear, 26 squared is 676. So if you see 676 minus 576, we learned that A squared is 100. Now we have to do a square root of both of those, and we get what A is, and that is 10. So we know for A that A equals 10. All right, let's go to B. B has the same thing. We have another one that has an 8 over here. Try to draw that 8 a little neater. A 6 over here. And the long part, which they call C for you, fortunately, we don't know. So remember, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So that means that we have 6 squared plus 8 squared equals C squared. Which means 36 plus 64 equals C. Oh, I'm doing C. This is the numbers for C. So we get 100 equals C squared. All right, so we know that this side equals 10 because we have to do a square root on both of these, so 10 equals C. So the question for C actually asks what's the perimeter. So now that we have this figured out, 8 plus 6 plus 10 is 24. All right, let's move on to B. Hopefully I'll copy down the right one now. It's got a 9 and a 12, 9, 12, and then we have our hypotenuse, which is C, over there. And they're trying to fool you around by calling it B. All right, so let's go take a look. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so these are your A and B terms. So we have 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. So 9 squared is 81 plus 144 equals C squared. 81 plus 144 on our trusty calculator is 225. 225 equals C squared, but then we have to square root these. And I happen to know my square roots. So we know that 15 is going to be that side there. All right, so, okay, D. Let's move on to D. It says, which triangle below is a right triangle? Show your work and defend your answer. All right, so they give you all the numbers. So for triangle A, they say that 10 squared plus 10 squared should equal 20 squared. Well, is that going to work? No, because we got 200 equals 400, and that's not the case. So it will not work. Why don't you try B for a second yourself? Hit pause and then resume when you're done. Okay, here we go. So we should have 9 squared plus 12 squared equals 15 squared. Now, if you were paying attention a little bit earlier, these are the same numbers that we worked with here. So you know that 81 plus 144 equals 225. 25, and 225 equals 225. This is a correct one. C. We have a triangle with 9 squared And 4 squared equals 10 squared. So we get an 81 plus 16 equals 100. And we look at that adding, we get 97 equals 100. No, it doesn't. So only triangle B is a right triangle. And that takes you to the end of this lesson. So hopefully the Pythagorean theorem makes sense. Make sure you do all of the odd numbers in lesson 99. Make sure you correct your work for lesson 98. And mark it as complete and submit a private comment with your